This is one of those conversations that lives in the pit of your stomach. Carry it around quietly, hoping maybe love will just understand you without having to explain. But here's the truth too. Many of us have been taught that our emotional needs are inconvenient, that love means silence, that closeness requires shrinking, and I know how lonely that gets. I am Zain, a relationship consultant and psychologist, and what we are talking about today is not just a skill, it is survival. Because if you have ever felt guilty for needing more, for speaking up, for just being human, then you already know how much power there is in finally saying this matters to me. And sometimes, saying that out loud feels like a quiet revolution. It is not always loud. It is not always graceful. But it is always honest. From that honesty, everything begins to shift. Let's dive in deeply. Number 1, the moment before the ask. There is a moment, quiet but defining, when you're about to say what you really need. Not what you think the other person can handle, not what you believe is safe, but the actual, tender truth of what your heart aches for. And in that moment, something often stops you. Guilt. It creeps in wearing all kinds of disguises: selfishness, shame, fear of being too much. You tell yourself to stay quiet, to be grateful for what you have. You imagine their reaction. You brace for rejection, and so you hold it in. But unspoken needs do not disappear. They sink deeper, creating space between you and the people you love. Where did we learn that needing connection, reassurance, or even just more presence from someone is asking for too much? More importantly, how has that belief shaped the way we have learned to love? Number 2, early conditioning and the shrinking self. Many of us were conditioned to make ourselves smaller in relationships. Maybe it started in childhood when expressing sadness or anger was met with silence or scolding. Or maybe it formed later after one too many partners called us needy, dramatic, or difficult. We learned to hint instead of ask, to offer instead of request, to swallow instead of speak. And over time, the relationship suffers. Not because of what we need, but because of how much we hide. It becomes easier to pretend, to accommodate, to disappear behind roles we think are more lovable. And what we lose in that process is not just connection, it is our own clarity. We forget how to tell the truth to ourselves. And without that truth, love becomes performance instead of partnership. Number 3, love in motion. The truth is, expressing emotional needs is not the opposite of love, is love in motion. It says, I trust you enough to show you who I really am. I believe this bond is strong enough to carry the weight of my longing. And when we stop seeing our needs as burdens, we start showing up differently. Softer, braver, more honest. It's not demanding, but rooted. Not helpless, but human. That subtle shift from guilt to self-respect can quietly transform the emotional weather of a relationship. When you give yourself permission to speak, you give the other person a chance to meet you. You invite them into your reality instead of hiding behind assumptions. And that is where real intimacy begins, not in perfection, but in presence. Number 4, healing from past shame. If someone has ever made you feel like your needs were a problem, that wound can linger for years. It can live in your tone of voice, in the way you apologize before asking for anything, in the way you rehearse conversations in your head 100 times before saying one vulnerable word. But here is the thing. A healthy relationship does not punish vulnerability, it protects it. It leans in when someone says, I need more comfort, or I need more clarity. And it knows that emotional needs are not interruptions to love. They are the map to it. Without them, we get lost in assumptions and misfires, wrapped in performance instead of connection. Healing begins when we stop explaining away our pain and start honoring it. When we begin to believe that asking is not begging, it is belonging. Number 5, permission to ask. So if you find yourself hesitating before you speak your need, pause and ask whose voice is telling me this is too much. Is it mine or someone else's? And what would happen if I believed, even for one moment, that what I need is not just allowed, but essential? Because the people who are meant for you will not shame your honesty. They will honor it. And that is not just the kind of love we deserve. It is the kind we are allowed to ask for. And maybe it starts small, saying no without apology, asking for reassurance without flinching. But those small acts create a different rhythm, one where love is no longer guessing, it is listening. Have you ever felt guilty just for needing more? What helped you unlearn that? Did someone teach you differently, or did you find your own way? Next time on STR TV, we will talk about the difference between boundaries and emotional walls, and how to know when you are building the wrong one. Sometimes, what we call self-protection can quietly turn into isolation. In trying to shield ourselves from pain, disappointment, or vulnerability, we start pulling away not just from what could hurt us, but also from what could heal us. Over time, those boundaries meant to keep us safe can become barriers that keep others out and keep us in. It's a delicate balance, protecting our peace without closing the door on connection.